Hey everyone, this is episode number 2 of the LPSD Virtual College and Career Fair, and today we have Jayson Nielsen, an athletic trainer. He is currently working at Combs High School in Santan Valley, Arizona. I've known Jayson for many years, a great friend of mine, grew up together, and he's going to talk about his career, how he got to where he's at currently right now. Different places that he's worked at as well. Jayson's had the opportunity of working, then college athlete Josh Hill, he plays for the New Orleans Saints. He's a tight end. He's went to Idaho State University, and he's going to talk about some of the other athletes that he had the pleasure of working working with to help them, be the best athletic self. And he's given some insight on the career field as well and what it takes to be an athletic trainer. So again, this is Jayson Nielsen, and let's get to the interview.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Welch, for having me. I'm excited to talk to you about my career path as an athletic trainer. So I'm going to share my screen here with everybody so you can make a little PowerPoint. All right. So like I said, I am an athletic trainer. I'm going to talk to you today about what an athletic trainer is and how I kind of fit in the umbrella of sports medicine and healthcare. So I am part of an association called the National Athletic Trainers Association. And then down here is my high school logo, the Combs Coyotes, where I work. So let's jump into it here. So who are athletic trainers? So a lot of you, if you've watched sports or been to any competitions or anything, you notice that when somebody gets hurt, there's these people that run out onto the field. Some of them are the coaches, but most of the time it's the medical staff, and part of that medical staff is the athletic trainer. And that is what I do. So when somebody gets injured, I'm the first one on the scene to help them out. And I go to all the practices, all the games, and things like that. And that's the more traditional setting for an athletic trainer. But you can see I have 2 other pictures on here, one with some people from the military and then also some people from NASA. And so athletic trainers not only work with sports teams, but they also work with what we call the industrial athlete. So, people in the military, they still get hurt. They still are doing things. And so athletic trainers can help with that. And then that bottom picture there is some people that work at NASA to make sure that their astronauts are healthy and ready to go. And I did want to read something real quick. This is straight from the official statement. So it says, athletic trainers are healthcare professionals who render service or treatment under the direction of or in collaboration with a physician in accordance with their education and training and the state statutes, rules, and regulations. As part of the healthcare team, services provided by athletic trainers include injury and illness prevention, wellness promotion and education, emergent care, examination and clinical diagnostics, therapeutic interventions, and rehabilitation of injuries and medical conditions. So the cool part about my job is that I don't only do like emergency care or just rehab. I kind of fall under a big umbrella of a lot of things that I get to do, which makes every day fun. So here's a few pictures of where I've been. Before I was at the high school level, I was at Weber State University in Ogden, Utah, where I was with the football team. And I did a lot of traveling with them. This top picture here is up at Eastern Washington. They have a red football field up there. It's kind of cool. This bottom left picture is me at Northern Arizona. And then the bottom right picture is me at North Dakota State University. And then the top picture was at a basketball tournament there. So another fun thing that you get to do is you get to travel to all these cool places, kind of see different parts of the country, which is a lot of fun as well. So this is me at the high school that I'm at now, Combs High School in Santan Valley, Arizona. So the picture on the left was a student got clocked, and we helped him. He had a concussion, so I was able to be there. The guy on the right in the red polo there, he's our team doctor. So I work closely with him to help with care. And then the picture on the right is students that help me. So I have kind of a cool job, and as I also teach a class called sports medicine, where I get to bring students out to the field and they get experience. They get to help me do things, and they get to see how healthcare kind of works on the sidelines. Another cool part about being an athletic trainer is all the athletes you get to see. And I put this slide in here because these guys are all athletes that are in the professional levels. So the guy on the left, I got to meet. His name is Damian Lillard. He plays for the Portland Trailblazers. Really cool guy. This kid in the middle, the baseball hat on, he is Gabriel Ponce. He's a pitcher. He currently pitches in the Toronto Blue Jays minor league system. He was at the last high school I was at, and he's making his way into the major leagues. Then the guy on the right here, his name is Josh Hill. I did an internship at Idaho State University, and I got to meet him. I always taped his wrist and stretched out his hamstring. So he's the reason that he's in the NFL is because of me. Not really, but he's a cool guy. And then the guy on the bottom is Taron Johnson. He's currently on the Buffalo Bills. He plays cornerback. Played a lot last year. Really cool guy. So it's kind of fun. I get to see high school athletes, college athletes, and then I've got to meet some professional athletes as well, which is just a lot of fun. So who are athletic trainers? So 70% of athletic trainers have a master's degree or higher, which I do have. I was able to go to school and get a master's degree. In order to be certified, so you do have to be certified to be an athletic trainer. You just can't come off the street and do what I do. So to be certified, you have to graduate from an athletic training program, and then there's a big test at the end of the year or at the end of your program that you have to take and pass. And so that is how you become an athletic trainer. We're regulated in 49 states, and what that means is that not only do I have to pass the national exam, but I also have to have a state licensure exam. So I have to be licensed in the state that I want to work at. All of those except for California, but California is weird. They have their own things, but so it's very regulated. You got to know what they want to know that you know your stuff so you can help, the athletes and people that you come in contact because you are their healthcare provider. So how I got to where I am today, before college, I started shadowing some physical therapy offices because that's the route I thought I wanted to go. But once I got there, I decided that I wanted to work with more people, more of an active population. In the physical therapy office, it seemed that it was just a bunch of old people, and I didn't really want to just only work with old people. So in my undergrad, I went to BYU, Idaho, where I got my degree in exercise physiology. So I got to learn about the body and how we can make the most of, exercise and performance and things. While I was there, I was able to do an internship at Idaho State University in Pocatello, Idaho, where I got to travel with the football team and also help with the women's soccer team. Great internship I was able to do. Then I got a master's degree at Weber State University, the greatest college in the world. It is in Ogden, Utah. And then after that, my first job was at San Luis High School, and that's just the southern end of Arizona, about 3 miles from the Mexican border. that's where I started. And my second job is now here at Combs High School. I love it. It's a great spot. I'm always asked, like, what would I have done differently for my path to where I am today? There's a few things I've thought about that I should have done. One of them is become a physical therapy assistant. So that is a associate's degree. But that's one route I could have taken. Another is a paramedic, because I work a lot with emergency care and with the paramedics and EMTs. So that's another route I could have took. A teaching degree. I didn't have a teaching degree, but I currently do teach a few classes of sports medicine at my school. So that would have helped. And then just more internships, more ways to get out there and things.
Got a question for you, Jayson.
Yeah, go for it.
You were talking about some other things that you wish you would have done. What are some, and you might cover this later on in your presentation, but what are some like classes or topics or things that students who are looking into this field, should they have like a good grasp of, or at least start taking?
Yeah, definitely your health classes. Make sure that you know all about your health. Anatomy, physiology, knowing how the body works. A class in college that I really liked was kinesiology, and that's how the body moves. So basically, just knowing your anatomy, things like that, will go a long ways. And then if you have the opportunity to get into like an intro to athletic training or intro to sports medicine class, that's a good route to take as well.
If for some instance, like a student hasn't taken any of those classes, that's what they want to do, are they still able to kind of get the most out if they were just to go fresh into college? Or would you recommend that they take a couple of those classes before they get to college?
No, you're good to jump right into it. I mean, I never took any of those classes until my like second year at BYU Idaho. So, I would just say that if it's something you're interested in, right when you get to college, just try to find the best path. So, get into your anatomy classes, try to talk with, your advisor, and try to talk with the program director that's there, and see how you can make the most of your time there. So that's what I would do. So, all right. So a lot of times athletic trainers get confused with personal trainers. Both are great, but I kind of just wanted to talk about that for a second. So athletic trainers, we are highly qualified, multi-skilled healthcare professionals, collaborate with physicians to provide medical services. So, we are part of a healthcare team. So when you go to, a doctor's office or things like that, that's more in line with what an athletic trainer does. On a daily basis, I see athletes that come in, and I treat it like they're coming to the hospital or coming to their doctor to get a checkup or whatever. So, I'm doing, medical evaluations on them. I'm prescribing them rehab that they should do, whether they should play or shouldn't play. So, I'm part of a healthcare system. Whereas personal trainers, they're not medical professionals, but what they do is they help people with their fitness programs to reach their goals. So there's a little bit of confusion in the world about the two jobs. So that's the difference between the two. Athletic trainers do have to have a degree and pass certification, whereas personal trainers, you can go online, take a test, and not even have to go to college if you don't want to. So, all right, so let's get into a little bit more of the services that athletic trainers provide. So there's some just general pictures that I put on here. So, this first top left is more of the emergency care. So athlete goes down, what do we do? How do we help them? The top right one is, helping the injured athlete, maybe with bracing, maybe taping, things like that. and that bottom picture is of rehab, which I do quite a bit as well. Skip that. So, I help people with, sprained ankles, sprains and strains, muscle pulls, things like that. So I'm kind of the first person that my athletes at the high school come to if they get injured, and I'm able to help them. Other things I help out with is like if somebody's having asthma or heat stroke, or if somebody has cardiac arrest or concussion or things like that. I'm able to jump in because I've been trained on how to do all of those things. Some of the cool stats about athletic trainers is that they reduce the risk. And so athletic trainers help with preventative services. So, for example, for my track athletes that I had this year, I was able to bring them in, and I was able to test out their range of motion, plus their muscle testing to see how much strength they have. And doing that, I was able to see that a lot of the athletes weren't getting enough hip exercises in, so they're pretty weak in their hip muscles. So I want to prevent them from getting injured. So I was able to come up with a program for them so that they wouldn't be coming in. Because if they would have kept going, would have kept running, more than likely they would have came and seen me, throughout the season saying they have pain in their hips or legs. And that's something we could have taken care of earlier. So I'm able to do preventative services like that. I examine and diagnose injuries. So, somebody comes in, says their knee hurts, and I'm able to look at them, say what's going on, or shoulder or something, and then give a diagnosis of what they have. So maybe they have a torn ACL or, a rotator cuff strain or something like that. I'm able to give them a diagnosis. And then I can have them do some therapy. So, getting them in an ice bucket or some type of electrical therapy, or just some basic rehab we need to do, or ice, heat, or whatever. So I'm able to do that as well. Emergency care. So if somebody gets hurt on the field, I'm able to jump in. I've had many instances where I've had dislocated elbows, dislocated kneecaps. We've had to call the ambulance for people with neck injuries. So I'm able to help them and take care of those things right then and there. And then rehab of injuries and medical conditions. So I do spend a lot of time rehabbing athletes so that they can get back to playing the sport that they love. Because that's what ultimately what I want to do is to get them back playing so that they can, help their team and they can perform at their best. There's this great website you can go to called atyourownrisk.org. And it talks about athletic trainers and how they reduce, injuries, and some great infographics and things like that. So if you're interested in looking a little bit more into athletic trainers and what they do, atyourownrisk.org is a great website to go to. So I always get asked, what's the pros and cons of your job? So I'm going to kind of go over those. So the pros, I get to work with an athletic population. So like I said before, when I was doing physical therapy and thinking about being a physical therapist, a lot of times they were just working with patients that were, 60 years and older, just trying to get back to walking without pain. And, I love physical therapists, what they do, but I like to work with people that want to get back to a sport. So that's pretty fun because they seem to be more motivated and things like that. Now I get to be on the field, so it's a lot of fun to be right there where the action's happening. So I got a front row seat to everything. It was really fun when I was at college helping with the Weber State football team because I was right there at their biggest games. So that's a lot of fun. I get to see a lot of injuries. I love learning about the body, learning about how people injure themselves. So I get to see all those. And which leads to the next one of doing a little bit of everything. So, I get to see different injuries. I never know what's going to happen that day. I get a good relationship with athletes that I help because I see them on a daily basis. Another thing I do is research, so I can research things about how I can help these athletes get better sooner, or I can conduct my own research of, is this treatment better than this treatment? But I think my favorite thing is helping a player get back to playing. So after they've been injured, we've been able to rehab them and get them back to playing. There's no better feeling in the world. Some of the cons is, I do spend a lot of time at my place of work. Some days are, I go to work when the sun hasn't came up yet, and I don't go home till the sun's gone down, sort of thing. Or if we're on long trips, I'm gone for a while. The pay is not the greatest for having a master's degree. I do have to deal with parents and coaches on a daily basis. So if somebody gets hurt, I have to talk to the parents and then tell the coaches who's going to be out, things like that. Work-life balance, so just making sure that I have a family at home, but I also want to do the best I can get at my work. So trying to make sure that I'm balancing those things. Another con is telling an athlete that they can't play, especially if they're like a star athlete and we need them for a game. I've made those decisions and they're not fun. So that's kind of hard. And then also just making decisions. So if it's in Arizona, it gets pretty hot outside. So if I have to decide that we can't play a game because it's too hot for the safety of the players, I'm the one that takes that. Or if a player has to sit out for the championship game, I'm the one that makes that decision. So that can be difficult, but we make it work.
Real quick, Jayson, kind of going off your cons list. About 6-7 years ago, I was helped a high school football team. I was a coach, and our team, we had a lot of concussions. We probably wasn't the best football season, and over the course of the season, from the first game to the last game, probably like 10 or 11 of our starters had a concussion, and the coach at that point just didn't believe that some of the kids were actually hurt, but they would go to the athletic trainer and say their head hurt. And he said, if you tell her that, she has to do the concussion protocol and she will probably sit you down and you can't play. And so he informed, before you go to her, come to me and I'll kind of not necessarily assess, but essentially do a quick assessment to see if they're really telling the truth or not. How, as a health care professional, most of the time you're probably the expert on the sideline. How do you deal with coaches or parents who, obviously they want their kid or their player to play, but you're there to, as a professional, kind of have to give the expertise? How do you deal with, that conflict?
Yeah, I've had to do that many times. So I think the big thing that I've learned to do is to, explain why I'm doing things. So I usually get with my coaches before the season starts to kind of explain some things. So explain how, like I said, the concussion protocol works and how we're going to go through with things. I think also just trying to not like take over and say what I say goes, but to try to work with the coaches to come up with a plan, that we can do. So, ultimately, like, I am the healthcare provider there, so I will make that decision. But I think just having a good relationship with the coaches goes a long ways. And then usually with parents, like I said, I just try to explain, what symptoms I see and why I'm keeping them out. I think that goes a long ways when I tell the why of things instead of just, saying, oh, they're out just because. So that's kind of what I've seen has helped. But there are still some times where the coaches will go over my head and things. But Usually I just try to talk with them about why that's dangerous and things like that.
So kind of going off of that, just because I've had friends, and the one that comes to mind is actually your brother-in-law Jacob Wayne when we were in our state playoff football game, and I can't remember if he blew out his knee or hurt his knee right before halftime, and so he couldn't play. I know that could take a lot of kind of like mental toll. Do you do any like mental assistance in that, or is there someone else, not necessarily a counselor, but a sports psychologist you work with at all?
That's a good question. So yeah, whenever somebody gets hurt, it does take a mental toll on people because a lot of people identify themselves as a football player or I'm a basketball player. That's what I am. And so if you take that away from them, they kind of lose their identity a little bit. And so, I've taken some classes on, um, that psychology part. But ultimately, I try to help them best I can. But if not, I do send them to our school counselor more than likely, or try to talk to the parents to see if there's some other professional help that we can go find. So that's usually what I do for that.
Yeah, I think
So,
kind of going back with you said with you doing a lot of research that comes into play on having to keep up what are the symptoms and things, and so I think probably with a parent, um, I think once, like you said, once you kind of explain the why, they probably, they might not necessarily like it, but I think that probably helps them maybe ease their mind a little bit on the reasons behind, um, your recommendation.
yeah, especially with the NFL and the worry about concussions and things like that. I think people are more willing to listen to me now. So, the media kind of helps with that too when they put stuff out there. So that helps as well. But, all right. So, like I said, I do teach a sports medicine class here at my school. So not only do I help the athletes, but I'm also helping high schoolers learn the field and help them gain skills. So, we go on field trips, we do CPR, we learn about rehab, we learn about modalities, we learn how to help people learn about our anatomy. So that's kind of another fun thing I get to do is kind of teach what I know to other kids at the school. So next steps for me, people are always asking me like, well, what's next for you? So right now I love where I'm at. I love being a high school athletic trainer. Um, it's just really fun to be with that population of students. But other things that could happen is, work with a professional team, or a lot of athletic trainers are working in hospitals now, or I could go on to physical therapy school or physician's assistant school, or there's doctorate programs out there. But like I said, for me, I love where I'm at. I love working with the high school population. But those are other avenues that I could go about, and that's what I kind of love about athletic training is if I want to switch to only working in a clinic, I can, or if I want to travel with a sports team, I can, or if I want to be at a high school, I can. And so there's a lot of different avenues that I can take. I'm not just stuck at one place, and so that's kind of the fun thing about that. So yeah, I just want to thank you for listening, and I don't know, do you have any more questions for me?
Yeah, I just have a couple. Um, with your degree and what you do, is there a way where you could be like a private practice as an athletic trainer? Is there any other like licensure you'd have to get, or doing a master's degree, would that qualify you to start your own business essentially?
Yeah, I mean there is a place in Arizona that actually they did start their own business. I mean, I could. Um, there are challenges with that. Um, and that has to do with like insurance and things. Doctors and physical therapists, they're able to charge your insurance, whereas athletic trainers can't do that yet. So it'd be difficult, but it's been done before. Most athletic trainers work under somebody, so either a physician or something like that. So.
And my last question is, I know you interned at college and you work at high school. Are there any differences or similarities between the two, and what did you like about the two sides of it, college level versus a high school level?
Yeah, so the college levels, it's crazy. It's fun. So I'll kind of give you the day in the life of an athletic trainer for college. Usually Monday through Thursday, we had morning treatments at 6 o'clock from 6 to 7. So athletes, before they would go to their classes, they would come into our training room and get any evaluations or rehab or anything's done to them. Then they would go to class till about noon. And usually about that time, I would go to my classes, and then the athletic trainers that were there would work in the physical therapy office. So kids would, come in, some of them athletes, some of them people from the community. And then at noon, we would start taping the football team. So from noon to 1, we would tape ankles, wrists, knees, you name it, we did it. And then the athletes there would go up to their meetings, and we would get the field ready for practice, making sure that we had enough water, making sure that we had our medical equipment out there. And then usually they'd have practice from about 3 to 5, 3 to 6 sometimes, where we would be out there at the practice, rain or shine, snow. We'd be outside with them in case anybody got hurt at practice. And then from about 6 to 7, we'd have after practice treatments, and then we'd go home for the day. So it was long days for sure. And then for the weekends, for games days, if we were traveling, we were traveling on Friday, and we usually get back on a Sunday and then have treatments on a Sunday and then start the week off again. If it was a home game, we'd be there about 5 hours before the game started to have treatments, and then we'd have the game where we'd be on the sidelines to make sure everybody was ready to go. So it was busy, but it was a lot of fun. I was able to be around the athletes a lot, so I was able to get to know them really well, find out their likes, dislikes, because I was with them all the time. So that was a lot of fun, and just to be with Division I athletes, it's they're beasts, they're fun, they're crazy athletic. It's fun to see them compete and see them do that. Whereas at high school, it's it's a little more lax than that, where usually I start about 2 o'clock, 2:15. After I teach for a few hours, I have my treatments from about 2:15 to 3:15, and then they go to practice, and I just go around. So in college, normally one athletic trainer covers one sport. And at the high school, I'm in charge of all the sports. So like during the fall, I have to be in charge of the football team, the volleyball team, the cross country team. So I'm all over the place. So I have to make sure everybody's good. And then on game days, everybody has game days at different times. So I got to make sure I'm available during those times for them. And so that's kind of the difference between the two. I like both. It's fun to see the high school athletes compete and try to win things for their school, and try to get scholarships and stuff, or just see them succeed. And then at the college level, it was just cool to see the level of competition up there. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Just real quick with high school, like let's say like you're in your fall season and you have all the different sports. Like when the team travels, are you going with like the volleyball team, or I don't think they do soccer in the fall. I can't remember what you said, but volleyball or football. Are you traveling with all of them, or do you pick and choose kind of which ones you go to?
Yeah, so during the fall season, I travel with the varsity football team, just because that's a different level. It's the highest level, and so we see a lot more injuries during that. For the other sports, I stay at my home site, and then the athletic trainer at the other school takes care of my team. So I'll take care of the visiting teams for the other sports, and then they'll take care of my athletes where they're at. And so I only travel for the football games, and then stay at my home site for everything else.
Well, Jayson, I appreciate you taking the time to talk about your career and how you got to where you are, and just kind of enlightening us on the world of athletic training. I'll just give you a few moments here. Is there any like last words you want to say to our students here, who might be looking into this career, or even they hadn't thought about it? What are some final things or words of wisdom you would like to share with them?
Yeah, so if it's something that you're interested in, I'd make sure that you research out, this career. The NATA, so the National Athletic Trainers Association website, is a good place to start. AtyourOwnRisk.org is a good one as well. So, research it out, make sure it's something that you want to do. And then, start getting into your anatomy classes, make sure that you can understand the parts of the body. And then I would just reach out to schools and to professional teams and whatever you can to try to get experience. And if it's something you want to do, go for it. Try to just do whatever you have to do. So.
Well, thanks again, Jayson. It's a pleasure, and you enjoy that warm weather down in Arizona. And thanks again.
Yeah, anytime. Appreciate you having me on.
Okay, we'll see ya.
Okay.
Just want to thank Jayson again. Being able to take time out of his day to talk to us about athletic training, pros and cons that he sees and what it takes to be an athletic trainer. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight on this different career that is available to you if this interests you. So thanks again for staying and watching and listening to what Jayson had to say. Be looking out for episode number 3 coming out in the next couple days.